It's time for another installment of the eternal renting versus owning debate. I'm Frank Della Femina for Hallmark Realtors, and I'm not going to put this debate to rest, but I do plan on highlighting some of the pros, cons, and considerations that come with renting versus owning. And to preface this, let me just say I'm not going to bog you down with just straight numbers and equity and all these other things. Right now, we're just going to focus strictly on the convenience and inconvenience factors. Outside of numbers, let's dive a little bit into the nitty-gritty stuff when it comes to renting versus owning. First off, home improvements. If your tub doesn't drain while you're renting, pretty easy. You call the landlord, he comes on over, and they fix it. If the tub doesn't drain while you're owning, you gotta call a plumber, handyman, or attempt to learn from YouTube, which, by the way, don't knock it because I've saved myself thousands of dollars off of YouTube. It's often considered a burden for renters to be at the whim of a landlord to make all repairs and file all complaints, but some may consider it also a blessing if it means that they don't have to do the work themselves. I've outright had clients tell me I never touch a tool, and that's perfectly fine. Again, this is all based on your preference. As someone who has been on both sides of the owning and renting equation, I sometimes miss the freedom of texting my landlord to come fix something that broke. Not surprisingly, I always think about this when something breaks in the house and I need to begin working on the issue myself. On the other hand, I also recall my landlord taking nearly a week to repair a hot water heater in the dead of winter, which of course resulted in ice cold showers and sub-freezing temperatures. And if you think water is cold without a heater, imagine how cold it is coming from the freezing pipes when it's under 20 degrees outside. As a homeowner, inconveniences are bound to surface, no more than when you rent. How you choose to handle them is entirely up to you. Personally, I try to learn as I go, not just to save money, but to also educate myself so that I can also educate my clients. So when the faucet in my kitchen essentially fell into pieces a year or two ago, I watched about a dozen videos on how to install, purchase a replacement kit, and redid the entire thing myself. And while it did take time and money, less of it since I wasn't paying for the service hours of a professional, nothing really compares to that sense of accomplishment afterwards. Now, I'm not patting myself on the back, I'm just saying I chose to do it, therefore I learned it, and I was able to pull it off. But there have been cases where I've tried, failed, and said, you know what, forget it, it's time to call a pro. Another benefit to owning versus renting, you get to lose the neighbors. Unless you purchase a house in the absolute middle of nowhere, you're going to have neighbors. But the added benefit of owning compared to renting is that you won't have them stomping above your head, screaming underneath your feet, or cooking on the other side of the wall. I distinctly remember when I lived in an apartment, having that smell of fish permeating throughout the house. My oven wasn't even on. And finally, probably one of the best parts of owning is that your home is your canvas. Most apartments won't even allow for fresh paint on the walls, and even if they do, your choices are often limited to white, gloss white, off-white, eggshell white, just plain white. Yeah, some places allow you to paint them to your liking, but then before you go, you gotta bring it back to the original color when you move out. Probably the last thing you want to do before you move is paint some walls. With a home, the walls are your canvas. In fact, your preferences aren't even limited to paint colors. You can add rooms, renovate basements, fix walls, build up, out, over, in. In the grand scheme of things, the options really are limitless. And the best part is that most changes to a home, while an expense up front, can actually add more value and equity to your purchase. For example, a common addition in older homes is a bathroom on the main floor. Not only is it a practical addition, but when it comes to selling or appraising that home in the future, it now goes a lot further in the sale if you have at least a half bath on the main floor. If you would like to kick off your home buying process or learn more about how to apply for a mortgage, I'm here to help. Email me, frank@hallmarkrealtors.com.